Let me get into this analysis. I believe we may get positions here at like 7:30, to be honest with you. Say you have no news, okay? You have no news today. I lied. You have 10 a.m. news. You have 10 a.m. prelim UOM consumer sentiment at 10 a.m. And then tomorrow, nothing. G20 meeting. Saturday, obviously Sunday, whatever. And then Monday next week, you have a pretty busy week. You have Empire State Manufacturing Index at 8:30 on Monday. Tuesday, you have. Oh wow, we'll be at the in person, but at this time next week. Tuesday we have retail sales. Wednesday you have unemployment change, unemployment rate. I lied, never mind. That's the Australian dollar. That's not US. Unemployment claims on Thursday, and then Friday you're chilling. So next week isn't too crazy. It's only I think Monday and Tuesday that's pretty filled with news, but yeah, you're chilling, man. All right, let me get into this analysis chat. So if you guys take a look at price here on the weekly on gold, right? You obviously have 1 day left in this weekly. You have like 9 hours left. So in 9 hours here, a lot of things can happen. All right. So we all know that the weekly closed below the range, right? There's a resistance here, and you are still below the range here. Let me just change the music here real quick, make it like copyright free. All right. So you're gonna see that the weekly is below this range still, right? We are not we did not close above it last week. We closed below it. We closed bullish though, but we closed below it. So any given moment this week, the weekly candle could literally just flip bearish and close doji or close bearish even today, right? You have a day left. You have no folders, so that it doesn't really, it's not really too convincing that this is gonna happen. But that was what we were looking at earlier this week, right? Because the monthly is still obviously bearish though, right? The monthly is creating a top wick right now. The weekly is still below the range. So until we actually close above in about 9 hours, it's not official that we're bullish just yet for the weekly, right? Again, 9 hours left. Anything can happen. Lots of potential today. Could be an algo day event, but the daily does show that we're bullish. So that doesn't help it as well. Daily shows that we're bullish because we closed above the range like this, right? We close above this yellow range here to the left. So if we're closing above this range here, look left, where's your next target? Your next target is likely going to be 1980, right? I lied. No, let me just 1970, right? This resistance right here. This is your next minor resistance. Major resistance could be here, but I believe for us to tap 1980, you're gonna need liquidity first. If you were to tap 1980, if this is the bottom wick and you flip, then there's a possibility that you can just flip and drop up towards 1970. But if you come down and create a bottom wick at like 1940 and you flip, because that'll be us coming down for the previous day low for a bottom wick, and then you flip, then yeah, you're probably gonna see us tap like 1980, right? The steeper the liquidity wick, the stronger the drive, obviously, right? In this case, you don't have much liquidity. You haven't grabbed liquidity since you were above this range. If anything, this whole entire week we were looking at this as a range 1, but then you close above the range, right? But now can support hold, or can you come down and create support, right? Are you gonna create support here before driving up again, or is this it? Is this it for a drive back up to retest the highs? Again, the monthly is overall still bearish, so chances of us driving up all the way to like 2000 again is very low until the monthly breaks the highs. The monthly breaks the highs at 1984. So let's see what happens there. But again, monthly is bearish, weekly is bearish, daily shows that we're bullish. Let's see what today does, right? But I'm looking at price from this perspective today. So I understand that the 4-hour candle is pretty bearish right now. You close below the range here. If you guys are looking here, you close below this range here. So I'm expecting this 4-hour candle to flip bearish, right? Because this candle closed below the range. These candles to the left have never closed below the range just yet, right? All these candles to the left all had rejections at one given point. Yes, they were all bearish, but they all end up closing bullish or bearish, respecting this yellow mark here. So this becomes a strong support. So if you could create a top wick, which we're doing right now, tapping the most recent level, I would expect this 4-hour candle to continue pushing down here, right? Like so. I'm looking for a top wick, probably a tap into, I'm looking at like 1959. If you can tap 1959, we may just take sells at 1959 and have our stop above this zone here to the left, like 1968. And then manage risk if we were to close above like 1964 instead, but we'll look for entries at 1959 for sells to continue pushing down the 1 hour time frame. All right, if you guys look at it as well, take a close look, you're gonna notice that not like there hasn't been one 1 hour candle that has closed above its range here. Obviously, you have 43 minutes left, right? So for us to tap 1959 and for us to take sales in 1959, it needs to happen before the 1 hour close, because this 1 hour candle is still below the range. Again, you haven't closed above yet. You close above in about well, if you close above in about an hour, then yeah, it's a different story, right? Where we'll be coming up to retest the highs. But since it's still below the range here, any given point during this 1 hour candle, it can still flip bearish like this because it's still below the range. So since it's a bullish closure, you might see this candle continue to push up, which it did. But if it taps 1959 here, this resistance right here, we'll take a sell, basically a sell limit. We'll take a market execution right at 1959 because we're anticipating this candle to come down to retest the lows. This 1 hour candle also has no bottom wick, right? So no bottom wick, still below his range here. Any given point, this thing could come up, retest the highs, and flip bearish. And if that were to happen, then that's the liquidity for us to drive down, because before driving down, you need liquidity, right? So that's what I'm looking for on price. The 4 hour candle, sorry, it will lead to the 4 hour candle basically. 4 hour candle will be creating a top wick, and then it'll be flipping at the same given time. And then as you flip bearish, you'll be coming down towards the next 4 hour support, which is going to be 1949. So we'll look for something like this range is like 93 pips basically. All right, 1949. If you were to come up and tap 1959, there's a possibility we may not get the sellers there. We may get some buys today even. But the only way I can get buys today probably is if you start to break above like 1963, because above 63 you're gonna have range to push up towards the next resistance here, which is 68, which comes to my next conclusion that there's a possibility that you could be mirroring this candle to the left here. You see this box here? Let me just go ahead and delete everything else here. Let's go ahead and delete all of this. All this information is irrelevant right now, at least, and just focus on this, right? Focus on this, because if you look at price here, you're gonna notice that we're in the same area roughly. You're gonna notice that there once was this bullish push, right? This push right here, and this is the same bullish push. You then create a support, you then create a support, you then wick down, you then wick down, right? So if there's a possibility that before coming down towards 1940, where were we looking at? 1944, right? Something like that. You can come up and create this wick up here, which is tapping you into 1968, 1970s, right? So that's why I'm saying, like, if you were to break above 1964 or 1964, then you can just take buys above 64 up towards 1968, and that'll be the buys we'll look to take, because then we're just going to be anticipating that this is the wick that's price is creating before it tends to drive down, and that'll be your liquidity wick, right? So those are my options for buys. But for the sells, I'm looking at this 4 hour candle, and I'm expecting it to flip with the 1 hour time frame as well. All right, I would expect it to happen before, like, you know, 740, 735, to be honest. If it doesn't happen by 735, then we'll just wait for the 1 hour close, and then this next 1 hour candle could tell you a completely different story. But I'll update you guys on what I'm looking for after that happens. All right. But yeah, to mark things up, I don't think I did one markup yet. This is pretty straightforward. This is just a simple range here. Resistance formed there, support formed down here. This is the range you're in. So if this is the range you're in, there's a possibility that if you were to come up and tap 59.60, right, that 1 hour resistance that we mentioned, that 4 hour top wick, that would just be a range one fake out. So you could go about it in two ways. You can just take your sells the moment you tap 5.9, anticipating a top wick. You might have better stops, or you can just wait for price to do something like this, right, and then come back into the range, and then that'll be the fake out. That'll be the fake out for us to continue pushing back down to the bottom of the range, and then that'll be the sells we'll look to take. All right, cool chat. So we'll see what happens here. But it should be a pretty interesting, like, I'll say high chance you'll get early push today, an earlier push than you would normally. All right, that is the analysis, man. So that's what I'll be waiting for today. Little different